I always figured Jack was the kind to draw a line in the sand. The careful type, watchful. The man who'd spot a glance that lingered too long and step in, not loud, but firm. A hand on my shoulder, not to claim me, but to say, "I'm here." That was Jack Sharp, aware, the kind of guy who made you feel chosen, tethered, sure of your place. So when it happened, it hit me like a freight train. We were at a friend's place in Chicago, the kind of night where the air hums with soft jazz, glasses clink, and half-empty bottles of bourbon sit on the counter, glowing under dim lights. Jack had just come back from the door, greeting someone, when he stopped beside me, his breath warm against my neck. He nodded toward a guy by the bookshelf, tall, late 20s, shirt tucked in too neat for a room this loose, confidence radiating like heat off asphalt. "This is Ethan," Jack said, voice smooth as whiskey. "Met him at work a few times. You two might hit it off." No ceremony, no wait, just words tossed out like loose change. Ethan stepped forward, his smile cutting through the haze, easy but deliberate. "Good to meet you. Heard a lot about you." I smiled back, caught off guard by how he carried himself, like he owned the room without trying. Then Jack checked his phone, gave my shoulder a quick tap. "Be back in a bit," he said, and drifted toward the hallway. No grand exit, no coded glance, just him slipping away, leaving me there with Ethan, the air between us suddenly thick. I turned to Ethan, expecting small talk, a quip about the bourbon or the music. Instead, he leaned in just enough, eyes steady, and said, "Does he ever tell you how much he values you?" It wasn't a line, it wasn't calculated. It was raw, like he'd pulled the thought straight from his gut. I blinked, the room's warmth pressing in the clink of glasses, the low hum of voices. Somewhere, Jack was nearby. I glanced over my shoulder and saw him by the kitchen, talking to someone. His frame relaxed. Not watching, not waiting, just there. Ethan nodded, like he'd read my mind. "Makes sense, but he says plenty when you're not around." There was a couch half hidden by the bookshelf, a slanted floor lamp casting shadows over it. Ethan gestured toward it, and I followed, sinking into one end. He sat opposite, not too close, leaving space to breathe. For a moment, we said nothing. The room's chatter swirled around us, but it felt distant, like we'd carved out a pocket of stillness. Then Ethan leaned forward, not invasive, just engaged. "Jack's the calmest guy I know," he said, "the kind who can hush a room without saying a word." I hadn't expected that. I glanced at Jack again, caught him laughing, one hand resting on the counter's edge. He didn't look over. He didn't need to. Ethan stayed steady. No push. No shift in posture. Just a quiet that made the room feel farther away. The clink of glasses, the soft laughter, it all faded, and I was locked in this moment, the air heavy with something unspoken, dangerous. From where I sat, I could still see Jack. He hadn't drifted far, talking to someone by the hallway, hands in his pockets, face easy. I didn't try to read him. I just watched his calm, his ease. Like he wasn't waiting for anything to happen, like he trusted I'd find him if I needed him. Ethan didn't interrupt my thoughts. He waited until I looked up, then asked, soft, "Does he ever tell you why he trusts you so much?" The question caught me off guard, but not in a bad way. I let it sink in. "Not in words," I said, "but I feel it." Ethan nodded, slow, like that made sense. "That's rare," he said. "You don't see quiet trust like that every day." I looked at Jack again, and this time, his eyes met mine. Just for a second. No signal, no message. Just a shared glance that cut through the noise. Not because he was asking for anything, but because he wasn't. I turned back to Ethan, and suddenly, I knew where I stood. I wasn't being led. I was choosing to stay. The party kept rolling, music soft, conversations flickering in and out. Someone laughed too loud from the kitchen, too late. But from where we sat, that moment felt far off. Ethan and I stayed on the couch, in that quiet corner, the tension between us coiling tighter, like a spring ready to snap. I glanced across the room. Jack had found a chair near the back, leaning toward a woman I'd met before, Clara. They were talking, heads close, both at ease, like people who don't need to rush. I didn't feel jealous, didn't feel betrayed, just a quiet understanding. He hadn't vanished. He hadn't stirred trouble. He was still Jack, just somewhere else in the room, sharing a moment without checking on me. Beside me. Ethan shifted, settling deeper into the couch. Not closer, not suggestive, just present. I looked at my glass, condensation cool on my fingers, the faint drip of it mirroring the slow burn in my chest. I'd traced it once, out of habit, not meaning. Ethan's presence was solid beside me, calm but heavy, like a storm waiting to break. The light softened, or maybe I finally saw where I was, not where I might end up. No lines were crossed, no signals given, but I knew then I didn't want to leave. The room settled, glasses scattered on tables, music fading to a hum, hallway light spilling soft across the floor. Most of the guests had gone, the rest thinning out. Across the room, Jack was still with Clara, still talking low, unhurried. They moved slow, natural, and when they stepped into the hallway together, it didn't feel forced. They didn't say goodbye. They didn't need to. I stayed put. Ethan didn't move either, steady beside me, silent, not waiting, not assuming. Just there, I shifted, turned toward him. Our shoulders brushed, and in that moment, a spark lit, sharp and forbidden, pulling me toward him like gravity. I looked at him, not for permission, not for guidance, but to understand. "I'm not sure what this feels like," I said softly. His eyes met mine, unflinching, a pause, not heavy, not expectant, just still. Then I reached out, took his hand, not dramatic, just enough to feel we were both here, in this moment, with nothing to explain. He nodded. Slight, not approval, just acknowledgement. We didn't move. We didn't rush. We just sat there, the weight of our choice sinking in, heavy with promise and peril. You don't hesitate, and he doesn't question. Now I want to hear from you. Would you stay or make another choice? Drop it in the comments. I read everyone. If this story hit you, give it a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. It's the best way to catch what's next. Thanks for being here.